Board of Education for today, the 16th of July. We'd like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, first we will have our presentations and recognitions. All right, so. All right, Ryan Deems and Mary Jo Bastine, Project Isaac Program.
Ron, do you have the, okay.
Before they start, they were actually recognized in the state superintendent's newsletter, the program, so.
Congratulations.
About that email.
Yeah. And I sent it to her. The kids, that's right.
Yep.
Millie, do you want to say something before we start?
Oh, we could go.
No, you go right ahead.
Okay, so you can see up on the board, we just have a little presentation about the summer. So my name is Ryan Deems. I've been the site assistant coordinator at the Mountaineer Middle School Project Isaac for the last 4 years. And I was actually a part of the first group that started Project Isaac at Mountaineer Middle 2016 and then summer of 2017, I believe. Okay, next slide, Todd. Thank you. So this is just a little bit about Project Isaac. The focus is on hands-on learning and really focusing on enriching kids, applying their learning to real-world situations. Next. One of the things that we told everyone before we started was no worksheets. It needed to be hands-on learning, and so we have a really great staff that's worked with us. Most of them have been with us all 4 summers. Some of them have only been with us 2 or 3, but it's a really good team. And so math, we worked on math concepts talking about the stock market, and they learned about trading stocks, reading and writing poetry and English. Mary Jo brought the Star Lab from NASA and talked about scientific concepts. I don't know if you've ever seen the Star Lab. It blows up. It's got like an inflator in it, and you can go in and sit down, and they've got different presentations that'll show off in the inside. And it's a really cool thing that kids who don't really care about science still find interesting. We made our own ice cream. The kids really enjoyed that and talked about chemical reactions. And then we almost every day we did enrichment that was STEAM focused and focused on simple machines and basic coding that the kids really liked, our 21st century skills.
I wanted to add on the stock market. So the first day the kids picked their own stock, and at the end they saw who grew the highest, and they got a little prize for the top 3. So that was a really good lesson. They saw, and we pretend we bought it, and they saw how much their money grew. So, and Mr. LaCaria had a good lesson along with that. I don't really know much about it, but I learned a little bit along the way as well.
Yeah, it's always fun when you're playing with fake money
Yeah.
or someone's money.
I mean, some of the kids, they I don't know what the last result was, but they put their money pretty high, so.
Yeah.
How many kids are involved in the program?
So, for this summer, we had 12. In the fall, we averaged 20 kids a night. Because it's also, we do fall and spring at Mountaineer Middle.
Your average daily
yeah.
attendance was 28.
Yeah, we had 28 regularly, but I think,
And And so what that means is what the State Department wants us to do is average daily attendance, which does not necessarily mean the exact same people in the seats
Yeah.
every after school evening, but how many seats every evening are filled. So we served, I believe it was 104.
The thing with middle
Children
school
over the
is,
year.
you have sports, so they might come in the fall. You might not see them until the spring after they do basketball season, or you don't see them in the fall, they come. So it's always a tricky thing, but that was our 28 was average,
yeah.
so.
And the problem in the summer with middle school is that they're teenagers and they don't want to get out.
Wanted to be there, they didn't have to be there, it wasn't a grade, it was that they wanted to be there, and their parents thought that it was beneficial, and you'll see that it was highly beneficial.
And usually we get students from the retention list.
Yeah.
But this year we didn't get any students sent to us by Mr. Rogers on the retention list. So this was literally the students that wanted to be there. Yeah, that's all. And we provide the same services to both types of students, but yeah, they just wanted to be there.
And this year we went 8 to 3 because our grant with the three-week summer period, we have to go 80 hours, I believe. So we had to go 8 to 3, and we had a bus at 3 o'clock, and it worked fantastically. We thought it was going to be challenging keeping them busy till 3, but our teachers in the morning did such a great job that I could just carry over what they were doing in the afternoon. And we had 2 teachers that were in the afternoon too. We did a ton of field trips, which you will also see. So, but I wanted to make it exciting for them, so we tried to beef up our field trips. So,
And also against flex days with West
Yeah.
Virginia secondary.
Yeah.
school And coaches.
mostly we don't always get the athletes.
Yeah.
But this is why this program is so good. We hit those kids that aren't the athletes, and that's a huge thing. I had this girl write a thank you letter. I actually forgot your guys's, but she wrote. We had questions and I barely got here, so I'm sorry about that. But you guys are getting a thank you letter. But the thank you letter that the girl wrote to Millie said, "Thank you for letting us become family. It's a safe place to be." And I know I shared that with Dora, and that's exactly what we try to do, because the teachers can't do what they need. They can't do everything. They can't teach them life skills every day. So that's what our program, that's what I always tell the teachers, do what the teachers can't do during the school day. If they need to go back a couple grades and get up in math a little bit, teachers can't do that. We can, because we're a little bit more one-on-one with the kids than they are. So.
Yeah, and so that concept of doing things that teachers can't do during the school day really kind of fuels our ideas for our summer field trips. And we've taken some really great field trips over the past couple of summers. We've been to Charleston, to the Clay Center, to the museum at the bottom of the Culture Center. We went to the Capitol on that one. We went to Hobatter Zoo and Arthurdale. We've taken them a lot of places that they haven't been. And so this year we had 5-6 things that we talked about, and we've got pictures coming up. So the first one, this is a martial arts experience with Ohana Self-Defense.
Yeah.
He's been with us 3 years
I
now.
would say, yeah.
And-
Last year we didn't have electric when he came, so that was fun.
Yeah, we had to move the mats into the doorways at Mountaineers, so we had enough lights to operate. But he really, really great guy, and the kids really like it, and it's an outlet that some of them have never experienced before, and could teach them a lot of self-discipline that they need
Yeah.
to be successful when they're adults.
He taught them about respect as well. The first day, they were a little bit intimidated. They kind of showed themselves a little bit, and I asked him, I said, "You want me to talk to him, or are you gonna, because we'll handle it tomorrow?" And he had to talk with them, and it showed, they were totally different than the second day, because he came.
He used to be a Marine.
Yeah. So he took care of that in his way. It wasn't intimidating or anything like that, but it really showed them a lot from him being there. And he told us little stories about how that we should respect the art and everything, and we don't do this to random people, but he wanted to give them that opportunity if they ever did get in that situation, that they could do at least something.
For protection.
Yeah, for protection, yes.
Yeah.
And we never had any issues. That was the first day, so we never had any issues of anybody misusing that, so.
Yeah, and so then we took another field trip where we went fishing at Deegan and Hinkle Lakes and bowling at Alley 304. You know, I know a lot of people think, oh, we're all from West Virginia. We know outdoor activities. We all know how to fish. These kids don't know how to fish. And so this is a lifelong recreation opportunity that we can give those kids.
That's part of one of the grant goals, is to not only educate them about career readiness or awareness or college awareness and readiness, but it's to also give them those lifelong activities to reduce stress, to help them deal with some of the things that they might be going through at home. This is an outlet. They have like a lifelong hobby that they can take part in.
And all of our staff is along this as well, being positive role models, and I think that makes a huge difference as well.
The fishing was very good this year. We caught 7 fish.
I think 11, I think I got 11.
11, okay. What? I just want to say,
Totally different ends of he was over there, I was over there. I thought it was 11.
mine was 7. We won. Last year we caught 1 all afternoon.
Yeah.
And so then we visited the Pierpont Aviation Center on the other side of the airport, and we actually had Dr. Brad Gilbert give us the presentation, and he was incredible. And
He was very brave.
So in the next slide, you'll actually see pictures of us doing sheet metal work with drills and rivets. And he said, "Do you mind if we?"
And he was the only instructor there. It was
Yeah.
us and then him. So.
And if we're asking you to use power tools, that's a dangerous proposition. So, but
This was a grant, I believe, through Pierpont. We've had partnership with them for the last 3 summers where we sent the students to the aviation center over there. And they've gradually worked from paper airplanes to last year it was styrofoam.
Yeah,
Styrofoam models, and then this year now. So it's been a progression, and it's been a wonderful partnership of Dr. Gilbert allowing us to come over and participate.
And
in
he
these
didn't have
activities.
any students there, so it was kind of like just him. So
Yeah.
he was brave.
yeah,
Yeah, and they get to tour airplanes and walk in. There's a whole bunch of airplanes on there. It's fantastic. Fantastic field trip. We appreciate you guys setting it up for so many years and getting us familiar with that, because it's been a great,
Yep.
great experience.
So then we took a tour of Clarksburg. And so we went to the Clarksburg History Museum here. We did, and Mike Spavor and his staff were great. We went to the Waldemore, where
We set everything up.
yeah,
We just
yeah.
showed up.
Kids had a great time. And then in the afternoon, we went to the General Services Building outside the courthouse. And we got to talk to Assessor Rocky Romano and a couple people from John Spire's office. The county clerk came, and they actually got to see voting machines and how they work, and did a couple of test ballots. So that was good. And then we walked across the road, and we went to Clarksburg City Council
Talking to
chambers.
councilman.
Unfortunately, our schedule kind of ran awry of the city manager and the city clerk, so they had to talk to the most junior city councilman. But I think they still enjoyed
We were
it.
sitting there and they said, "Why is your name there?" And so one person called it, so we got and that was the day of your first meeting?
And so then we have a great cook
Yes.
who's worked with us for many years, Kim Wilson, and she loves to bake with the kids. And so she actually taught them the school pepperoni roll
And they have the recipe. now.
and she printed it out for everyone. And they baked these, and she didn't do anything for them. She walked them through, but they proofed the dough and everything. There's one event on here that we did that I just forgot until we started talking. We went to the Clarksburg Country Club. Doug Comer invited us over, and we took the kids to the driving range and the putting greens. You know, golf is another lifelong activity, that's good for your physical and mental well-being as long as you're playing well.
We asked the kids, have you ever golfed before? Yeah, I've golfed. Putt-putt was always.
Yeah.
And when oh, really, where? It was putt-putt. So this was cool, and Mr. Josh Ashby was our golf pro for the day. And he did a fantastic job. Clarksburg Country Club gave us cars, clubs, balls, everything for free.
Yeah.
All we had to do was get a bus over there, and they treated us like gold. So we just did the driving range, which probably was best because. Yeah.
So high.
Hard.
Playing.
We played all, but they loved it, but they did complain on and off all morning long,
Yeah.
so.
They got to make ice cream that afternoon.
Yeah,
So
so-
there was a balance.
Yeah.
So then on our last day, we went and toured the multiple Pierpont Community Technical College campuses. We went to the Fairmont campus in the technology park, and everyone there was incredibly welcoming and informative with the kids. We then went over to the Commons and we went to the culinary program, which is
State of the art.
yeah.
I mean, the guy said that he has worked in kitchens all over the country, and it was a sight to see. This is a field trip. I mean, this is off the topic, but every high school needs to do this field trip. Sophomore year, this is where they need to go. I mean, we took 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I think it sparks some interest, but I mean, we might lose them by the time that they get to high school, but this is a field trip every high school student should have.
Yeah.
A free 2-year program. I hope we utilize it, so.
Yeah, and then we came back to Clarksburg and we toured the
Capron, so.
Capron Center facility.
Yep.
So
All right.
anything?
I've been in this program. I'm also the site coordinator in the fall and spring. I can't say enough about this program. It's something, these kids need something like this. I mean, the teachers do as much as they can during the day, but they need something after school. I know our numbers aren't always the best, but we try really hard, and this summer we did a good push. But we have 2 more years, and then hopefully we'll compete for the grant again. But I really think that this program, I mean, ISAC stands for Increasing Student Achievement and Advancing Community. And I think that, I mean, what better program could we do? And with the merger of the 2 schools, I think that it's something that we should consider, so.
And although, not to interrupt you, although she said our numbers aren't great,
Yeah.
they're not great in comparison to elementary schools.
Yeah.
But nationwide, the average daily attendance, the ADA for after school programs, is 17 to 18 for any given middle or high school after school program. So the fact that they had 28 average daily attendees, that's well above normal. So it may not look like the 300 numbers or the 100 numbers that we see in elementary schools, but we're well above the national average. We're top dog.
And I think that our kids really enjoy themselves. I mean, we have about, I would say 20 really faithful that I don't know what they would do that if they weren't able to come, but I could talk here all day about it, so. And I know some of you guys have came in and seen some stuff that we did. I know Pam was our guest judge at the cake decorating
As well as
competition. Dora did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Pam was able to attend our advisory
Yep.
council. Yes, we appreciate that.
yeah, so.
Yeah, we just wanted to thank you. I know you've seen, I'm Millie Michael, I apologize. I'm the director for Project Isaac. I came over a long time ago from RISA. And so when you see those bills come through for Upshur, Randolph, Mon County, they're usually my fault. But we do have our special school here, Mountaineer Middle, in our home county that we're providing services to. And like Mary Jo said, we have 2 more years. It is a highly competitive grant. We have about a 25 to a 32% chance of receiving the grant when we compete for that. But that would be, your all's decision if we wanted to keep doing this, but we just kind of wanted to show you Mary
Yeah.
Jo and Ryan. I said, we need to present this to the board.
Yeah.
And that was
Well, I'll be back
last
in the fall.
Tuesday, and immediately Ryan said, let me email Caitlin. I was like,
We'll be
thank you,
back in the
Ryan.
fall when we get started in the fall too, to do
Yeah.
everything too, because this is something that we need to show off, because it's a very special program.
Now, we won't have summer next year. We've had to change some things with funding. The COVID money's gone. Whitney had requested that we paid the whole $35 an hour out of the 21st Century Grant, and so we made that happen. But we kind of had to omit the summer program to keep after school going strong, and I think that might work since we're combining next summer with W. So that would probably
And we
work out
probably
very
wouldn't have
well that we weren't
Yeah.
there while the combining was going on. But we would love to, if we would write another grant in the next 2 years from now. We'd love to bring summer back. It's a good program. to
Yeah.
have.
I mean,
And we can provide services to any of our schools that are, well, it used to be 50% or above free and reduced lunch, but it's a similar standard now. We just call it something different.
and what a great way to bring the two schools together. I mean, you know, there's gonna be a big number, so. All right.
Do you all have any questions?
Yep.
Millie is phenomenal.
Yeah,
too.
she is.
And writing grants and
Getting a great boss.
the process,
Thank you.
the process is unbelievable, what she goes through
Yeah.
to get that money.
Yeah.
It's a large grant, it's not something simple, so. yeah. Thank you.
I have a question over here.
Yes.
So this year, I know that we got a supplemental grant for one of the other counties,
Mhm.
so they could run a summer program. Is there something like that that we could get potentially next summer?
Possibly. They'll let us know usually in March so what happens is if any of the other programs or have to give back money from the regular the year cycle, after school cycle, then what the State Department does, they combine all of that and they give us grants. This year was for summer. Last year it was for professional development and attending the national conference. The year before it was STEM activities over the summer. So if they do offer another summer program, we could most definitely apply for that for Mountaineer and the combination of WI students that they're coming in. They would be applicable and we could combine them at a facility somewhere if possible.
I could see the potential for the opportunity to bring that grant with the combining of the schools.
Yeah.
To do something even more spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I like the
To
way
solidify
Yeah.
Really, that makes my
that.
heart feel good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that. If we have a place to have it next year, I don't really know if there would be a spot. I mean, we'll be happy to be here.
We can have it in the
At the
STEAM
STEAM
Center if
room.
you want us to. Make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to go to Project Isaac.
Anytime. We're always looking for presenters, everything, so, yeah. And this one's I'm telling
It'll be on your field trip.
you, all I send an email to all these people. It looks like I planned like everything the minute they did it all. Mike Spatafore, he had it down. Pierpont was fantastic. And like I said, I will say that they said that they don't get a lot of communication back from school, so hopefully we can make that push, because we got the weld, we got to do some VR welding, so
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
We usually try to go to UTC. We try to keep it in the community.
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure that we're providing activities, except for a couple of the field trips
Yeah.
that are like Charleston. But we want to keep it in the community where the students can actually go to with their parent or guardian and participate in those activities, like the local
Yeah.
library, the local museum. We usually try to tour UTC as well as Pierpont.
Summer's
But
just hard.
I think they had
Yeah.
something going on with their building and we
Yeah.
couldn't get in this year, but it's still on the docket if we can have summer again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
All
Mark.
right, thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is delegations. I do want to say that in this meeting, I accepted the delegations, but for future reference, delegations need to be submitted to the board 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. So in the future going forward, I will not accept any delegations after that 15-minute time period. Okay?
And what if there's a meeting prior to 6 o'clock? How do I present that during the meeting prior to?
You can bring it up to Caitlin, or you can email it, yes. But it needs to be, but all delegations need to be received 15 minutes prior to the meeting.
I'm sorry, but I'm from another county, so I have no idea.
That's okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. I accepted them tonight, no problem. I will say that the notice to all speakers who appear before the Board of Education of Harrison County, that speakers before the board are asked to express themselves in a civil manner at all times, with due respect to the dignity and privacy of others who may be affected by the content of your comments. While it is not the intent of Harrison County Board of Education to ever stifle public input into our deliberations, all speakers should be aware that if your public comments made here today violate the rights of any other person, especially under the laws of defamation or invasion of privacy, you may be held legally liable and individually responsible. If you are unsure about the factual nature of any claim, comment, or allegation you're about to make, the Harrison County Board of Education strongly encourages you to consult first with your legal counsel. Additionally, last, I will say that during the delegations, the board generally does not interact with people speaking. Right? First, we have Stephen Santilli. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Carl Stephen Santilli. I'm a resident of Harrison County. I currently live in 127 half West Main Street, Field Buffington Photo Studio. I'm here as a private citizen. I'm not here representing anybody other than myself or any other entity. It's come to my attention today that the Whitedale School looks like the Harrison County Commission wants to sell the property, but because of the proviso and the first right of refusal when the school board originally sold the property to the county commission, if the county commission was not going to use it as a museum or to sell it, they had to get approval from the school board first. That so far I understand. What I don't understand is why the county wants to sell it to a private entity, and the fact that the Whitedale, the Civilian Conservation Corps Museum, will be raised, including the antique barn that's up there, the historical barracks that were relocated, I think, from Preston County to the site. They're going to raise it to make an entrance into that area behind the Amish store, on 79 and Route 20 split, where they did all the clear cutting and the burning. They're going to put a business in there. What they're thinking about doing, or what they've said they're going to do, is to raise the entire property. It's on the National Register of Historical Places. In Harrison County, there were 22 historical places on the register. The one that's not was a golf house that was right next door. Oak Gas tore it down, and they were told by inspectors that the house was not inhabitable. So they went through a special process through the National Registry. They had the building torn down, they put in 2 natural gas pumps in there. So there's 21 other sites still left. The Civilian Conservation Corps is one of those sites. It's really difficult to raise property as once it receives that designation. I guess my question is, what due diligence has the council done, the Board of Education, to determine what can happen to that property, whether it has to be protected in perpetuity or not? In fact, that Whitedale School actually served as offices for this Board of Education at one time, up until about 1990. Also had kindergarten in there, special needs classes. County Commission wants to sell the property for private development, and the board must approve, this board must approve the sale of that, and then split the proceeds of the sale equally. What will happen to the CCC museum artifacts? What's going to happen to the West Virginia Heritage Crafters who were there, who've been there for over 20 years? What's going to happen to the artifacts? What's going to happen to the historical buildings on that site? Can any of the funds if the property is sold and the school board shares half the sales proceeds? Can any of that money be used to relocate or mitigate the cost of relocation for the nearly 30 artisans who are currently set up at that building? If you've ever been out to the property, you go past the Amish store, and then you turn right, and there's a telephone pole right there, and there's a driveway that leads up to the parking lot behind the Conservation Corps. When the appraiser, the Harrison County Commission sent out a contracted real estate appraiser last week or week before last to appraise the building. And they told the folks there that it's in decent shape, it'll take some money to get it, to get to really where it needs to be. So the other historical site that was raised in Clarksburg was not, it was a home, private residence, and it wasn't habitable. But this building there is in fine shape. It seems like the county wants to save money because they're saying they don't have the money to maintain it or anything else. That I'm not sure if that's true or not. Full bore drilling is doing the site prep out there. From what I heard, RDR Energy is going to be building a new facility there. So I guess my question is, can you look at how you can raise a historic place on the National Registry? What's the process going through that? I believe you need to do your due diligence in order to make sure that this is done properly. I went out there today at the CCC. I spoke to a man who drove up from Lakeland, Florida. And I spoke with him as a concerned citizen. And this is what he said. He's John Duncan from Lakeland, Florida. He drove 1,000 miles, quote, chased his father's history in the Civilian Conservation Corps.
I'll let you finish up here, but your time is up.
Thank you. Quote, I came here to the museum specifically to find out firsthand what it was like for my dad to work at the Morgan camp outside Romney. He met my mother then and got married and raised 4 kids. I know he learned how to carpenter, cut hair, and learn how to drive a truck. This means a lot to me to make this trip, and I'm so sorry I waited so long. This is the history of our country. My dad was one of 12 children and worked at the Corps to help out his family when no one had anything. To waste this would be a travesty and abomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Next delegation is Joyce Harlan.
And I'm sorry, I have nothing prepared until Mr. Santilli called me this afternoon with West Virginia Heritage Crafts, so I had no idea what was going on. So I am very emotional. I have been a member of West Virginia Heritage Crafts for almost 25 years. We have been in the old Whitedale School building since 1991. Our establishment, West Virginia Heritage Crafts, has been in business since 1987. Right now, we have currently 28 crafters who have product for sale in our school. In 2001, the school was designated on the National Historic Register, and we started the CCC Museum. Dr. Robert Anderson, who was a professor at West Virginia University and a big history buff, got interested in the CCC and asked us if we would like to display some memorabilia, and we gave him an 8-foot table. That 8-foot table has expanded into an entire room, plus an annex building, full of pictures, artifacts, trunks, a mannequin, uniforms, all kinds of memorabilia from the CCC. Just heard from Project Ozzy, they took their kids to the History Museum, but they didn't bring them out to us. I don't know how many of you even know what the CCC was. It was part of Roosevelt's New Deal to put young men to work and save families. These boys worked for $30 a month. They got to keep 5 of it, and 25 of it was sent home to their families. Arthurdale was Mrs. Roosevelt's brainchild. The CCC is very connected to Arthurdale, but we've been forgotten. The county commission has not approached us, has not told us anything. I was working the other day when the assessor came in, or the appraiser. So I've been very concerned. I've been very concerned ever since they started trashing the property behind us. It was a beautiful piece of property, nice meadow and woods, and now it's a dump. They've totally stripped the trees. They don't know what they're going to put in there. The guy who lives next door, they told him an equipment rental place when they tried to buy his house, which the last time I talked to him is not for sale. The county road, it is a county road from Route 20 up into our parking lot. What they indicated to me was that they were going to come up the county road and go off at the telephone pole. There was never any indication that they were going to try and destroy us too. Our school needs some repairs, yes, but it's a good building. The appraiser said it wouldn't take that much to fix it up. I would invite all of you, please, to come out I have pictures on my phone, but I don't know how to get it on here. I took a video today of all of the product. We have 3 rooms representing the lives of 28 people. We're better than Tamarack. We are a mini Tamarack. Plus the CCC, which the thing that really, really hurts. Camp Harrison was on our property, right behind, Dr. Pickens owned that entire property. Camp Harrison was right behind our parking lot. Where else can you go to a CCC museum that is on the site of a camp? You can't. All of them have been destroyed. This is probably the only one with good access. I mean, there's others out there. I've not been able to go to them. We don't have anything left of what the CCC did other than the memorabilia in our store. We have one section that is from Camp Harrison that shows the school, shows the church, shows the house. You can't go somewhere else and find it. I don't know why the county commission wants to destroy us. The only thing I can think of is greed. History is so important, and it is being destroyed leaps and bounds. And I beg you, come and see what we've got. I've got a list on here today. He took a picture of it just in the last few days where all of our people have come from, all over the United States. Very few local ones. I mean, we get a lot of locals, but they've been there before, so they don't sign our register. Had a couple in from Idaho. I mean, they're coming from all over the United States. They go across the road and put gas in their car. They go down to the Amish store and they buy food from the Amish store. So even though we are not big guns, we don't make a lot of money, we couldn't afford to pay rent. If they destroy us, West Virginia Heritage Crafts is done. We can't afford to pay rent somewhere in a building. The lives of 28 people will be massively destroyed. Our president, who helped found this, has been with it since 1987. She's 82 years old, and she is still a historical presenter at Cricketsport.
Mrs. Harlow. Right, your 5 minutes is up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
know it
that's
was
okay.
in the, but please, come out and see what we're about.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our delegations. Superintendent's update.
Yeah, I just have a few things. Just some reminders of what's happening coming up. We have our principals in next Monday, Tuesday for 2 full days of, we have some great leadership training, and of course our department heads will be talking to the principals. We've been working to prepare for those. I believe the board was invited. If you'd like to, we have Howard Super on Monday for 3 hours if you would like to come and listen to his legal updates. And our principals have not heard him for quite a while, so he'll do legal updates, anything to look for that could be happening as far as grievances across. He usually does a thing on personnel as well. And then we do have the leadership training scheduled. It's on the 29th. We have a guest coming in, and he's going to be doing some things, but I think it's Lincoln letters and Lincoln on leadership, and we're really looking forward to that. And he's actually divided our principals and assistants into ones that have experience and ones that, are less experienced. So he's dividing that. Would you like to speak on that, Julie, at all?
It's really newish in the position they're in. Some of them
Yeah.
had lots of experience, but you talk to my high school to an elementary, and there's just a big change in jobs, even going from an elementary principal or a principal or assistant principal to a principal. That job is completely, it's a lot different. So it's not that they are new, but they are newer to the position they're in. And the others are veterans to the position they're in.
Also to make the groups a little smaller so he can work with them.
One individual.
Yeah, one-on-one. We also have our new employee orientation scheduled, and we have department heads, and the notices have been sent out, our organizations have been invited. Insurance folks, anybody that wants to meet with our new employees. That's going to be on the 25th. You're welcome to stop by. It's that morning, if you'd like new employee orientation. We also opened up our mandatory trainings. We did that early this year. It's online and available for our employees, and if they want to get that finished before they start school, then that, we do give them time on those beginning days, but they get it done, then it gives them extra time. So those are open and available. We also, if you haven't heard, we have offered a bus to the Liberty students, and it was really out of request from parents in that community. We've had a lot of requests. Mr. Harrod approached us and said that he was getting a lot of calls, if it would be possible. We have freshmen wanting to go ahead and start at Robert C. Byrd to start their careers there. So that was really out of, need and request from parents. So that's been available, offered, and Mr. Harrod is reaching out to his families. And I will update you on how many take advantage of that. And Mr. Lopez is working to get that supplemental schedule prepared with the times, and I believe it's a good plan with making sure the kids get the instruction that they need, and they're not missing any of their school time to make that work.
How many students we have at this time that are going to take advantage of that?
I mean, do we have an idea, Pam, 40?
I was gonna say.
Probably 40 right now, and every day we're getting calls. So, but we'll get you some final numbers. Yeah, for that. So we're really trying to work to accommodate the ones that want to go ahead and make that move.
Is that just for freshmen or anyone?
Anyone. We thought if we're taking the bus over, we'll make that available to anyone that would be wanting to do that. We also, I think, we'll let Mr. Lopez, do you have anything you want to tell him about the summer? I think it's moving along, getting the buildings ready and.
Yes, and the maintenance department's doing a fabulous job. They're very thin, so kudos to them and putting out some fires from, I think over Bridgeport. We had an area that some of the neighbors wanted to make sure that the drainage was adequately open. They took care of that.
Got those pictures today from
Yeah.
Mr. Kennedy.
So, trying to stay ahead of the curve. The vast amount of properties that we own, it's one of those things where you can do a million things right, but there's always something that's going to go wrong with the facility, and that's the unfortunate part. But they're doing a fabulous job. All the gym floors have been refinished, I think, except for one, and that was at Liberty, and that's because of some of the HVAC work that's being done. But they're going to come back and finish that. As far as the pre-construction meeting, I know Mr. Hogue asked for an update on that. We have had the pre-construction meeting. It looks like we have a plan in place for another court. The contractor went out and visited the sites. Of course, they've been there before, but they wanted to see where the laydown area, where they can put their restroom, how they can access it with a timeline and different things. So there is a little bit of we're working through some access issues over at Simpson. I think that we've got the right people involved. I spoke with actually Ernie Delacour this afternoon. So we have some of our best people on it. There is a viable option. There's a couple options. We want to make sure that it's most convenient for the school so that we can continue the normal operation of the school day. I think that's very important. So we're looking at access points for that. Other than that, I think that it's great that we can offer a school bus over to the high school, from one high school to the other. I think it's important to note that is from the high school to the high school, but if any kids that are involved in extracurricular activities that may stay, and just so you all know, the parents will probably have to, at that point, get them back home because there won't be a bus that will go from RCB back to their feeder area. Okay, but at least that opportunity, it won't be an activity bus from there, but it's still a great opportunity for those kids to be able to ride to school and get over to Robert C. Byrd if they wish to do that.
And quick on the construction, do you have any idea when it'll start at the two schools and when it'll finish? Is it, is it going to be ready for when school starts, or is it going to be,
Substantial completion date is June 30th, 2025. That's substantial completion date. So
A
we should
whole
be
year?
ready. Yeah. That was the plan for that. That was the plan for the onset.
And if it's sooner, then it could be sooner.
It absolutely can be, but it's one of those
You
things,
never
where you
know,
never know
yeah.
what kind of hiccup you're gonna run into.
Yeah,
That's the
they did it over
deadline
years.
for them. The sooner the better, we can start making plans to make, some movement into the building and, that will work out best for us. And I think that the contractor anticipates it will go quicker, but, be optimistic about the fact that it could, but, their deadline is for substantial completion, June 30th.
One of the things I did forget, one of our trainings we are setting up on the 24th was request to do some training for anybody in Harrison County that would like to be an administrator, and they have a current administrative license and they're in Harrison County. We will be meeting with them. I think that notice, I don't believe it's went out yet.
It's on the website.
Did you put it out? Okay, we just talked about that today. Picking a date.
What's the date for it?
What time? 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock on the 24th. And I think Mrs. Kanji wanted to update them on something that we just received from school finance. I think you have a handout.
Yes,
You have a handout from the Ryan coming.
So it is, the state legislature 2023 came up with the ideas, I guess, the counties were a little concerned that our funding formula for the state aid is done on basically that October 1 enrollment. Well, kids moving after that October 1 date, the county that they are coming into is not getting money for those. So in 2023, the legislature said that the counties could bill for those students. So I gave you the little summary from the State Department, and then also the sheets that actually indicated what counties our students came from, and then quick calculation of what that means to us. So as you can see, we had students come to us after October 1 of 2023, which creates our funding for next year, from 1 day up to as many as
There's 80.
98 days of instruction. For those students, we got 0 state aid for next year. So we can now bill them. Now we have to use a step 10 of our state aid formula divided by our state aid funded students. And it comes up to roughly $27 a day. When you multiply it out, it's $355,482. On the flip of that, 22,707 would be billed to public charter schools. But there's a catch-22. I can't pick and choose. I can't pick and bill some schools and not other school districts. So if I bill one, I have to bill everybody. And so there's some school counties that get no state aid, such as Providence and Tyler. We have students that went there, they can't bill us because guess what? Step 10 is 0. So they can't bill us for any students that came to them from us, but we can bill them for our students that we got back from them, which they haven't been paid. So based upon a quick calculation, because I asked for it in Excel so I could actually do the calculations to figure out how many days that we're gonna have to potentially pay back. It looks like we'll be billing for about 355,000, and potentially other counties and public charter schools could bill us for 315,000. We actually, at the treasurer's meeting with the Office of School Finance last week, we asked them, why can't you just make it elementary, make it all happen wonderful instead of 55 counties on the thing? And they're not committed to do that. So the legislature said, and we also can't offset because it may be 27 for us, but it may be 28 or 26 for another county because of the way the state formula works. So about October, we'll be sending out the invoices. I let everybody know in the meeting. I said, just so you guys know, if you're on my list, you're gonna get an invoice from me. And then they have to pay it within 30 days, just like when if we get an invoice, we'll have to pay it within 30. So he'll be going through that process.
You also have your monthly financial report attached to it, so.
Yes.
Superintendent's update.
To the monthly financial report, this is a cash basis report, correct?
Yes.
So what about the report with the accruals?
Well, I have to hold the books open until August 31st. Then I'll start my modified accrual, and then I'll be full accrual, and the plan is to get it to you guys at the September 17th board meeting. And then you will have a time, a week to look at it, and then we'll have another meeting for actually ask questions and approve it for submission.
Okay, so you said
And that'll be
August
complete with
17th.
MD&A, complete with the MD&A.
Because the books are open for review. And then the comparison summary is on the executive. Yes.
I do want to ask if there is objection to change the start time of the August 6th meeting from 5 o'clock until 4 to 4:30. Starting at 4:30 instead of starting at 5. That will be our second levy work session. We'll give us an extra half an hour. There's no objection, we can make that change.
Sounds good.
And also, I would like to start talking about the date for the superintendent's goals. I'd like to get that done in August. So we can either do it on the 6th meeting or the 17th. So, I'm sorry, 20th meeting.
No, I think the 20th,
Got a lot to do.
we have a lot to do on the 6th, or what about on the 20th?
So, is it the 20th?
Will that be another meeting, special meeting
That
prior
will be
to?
a special meeting prior to.
And then we're going to have a levy meeting at 4:30 that day, correct?
On the 6th,
We're not on the 20th, we don't have a levy meeting?
well, we don't right now. We could, but that would.
See how it
that would
goes
be-
on the 6th.
See how it goes on the 6th.
But we'll have the superintendents at what, like 5:30?
We can do 5.
What's the earliest you can be here?
5. We'll have our regular meeting 6. And then I have one other thing before we jump into consent items. Last meeting, we approved an open PO for $367,000, I believe, for Game Changers. I have two things on this. Number one, I thought we were supposed to get money from Game Changers. And number two, what are we getting for that $367,000?
Well, right now, we have 10 schools that are participating. That includes the $5,000 stipend for the coach in that building. And we have, well, 3 of the schools were pilot schools, so they've been in it now. This will be their 3rd year. So they are, they're full bore in. They have peer teams set up, especially the middle schools. Elementary is more curriculum based. That peer coach is there every day and doing lessons in the classrooms at the elementary level. At the middle and high school, they have a peer coach, and they're doing lots of activities with them and available for kids if they need to come and speak with them. It's kind of like the model. Do you remember the Dream Team that came out of Robert C. Byrd and they were trained? So Hazelton Betty Ford sends in their prevention specialists. They train our coaches and they work in that school. And they do that the first year. That's where the cost is at.
So we're paying
Bringing
for
them
that
in.
to train our people.
Yes.
Was that
They're-
part of the agreement?
The original agreement to be a pilot school, the pilot schools actually cost more because there was no fundraising or money available for Game Changers. So they've been working the last, 4 years to raise funds, and they are getting more funds. And as you add schools, the cost is getting much lower. So we took those 3 pilot schools, so they were expensive at the beginning. About 15,000 a school, and we're paying that every year. Those coaches have been trained, those programs are working right now. That's why I did not add another one, because there's funding, we've been given grant funding, Antero has paid, they gave us money, Harrison County Commission is giving us money from the opioid funding. So that's where that's coming from. But right now, schools are upfronting costs. Game Changers is covering a lot of it. It's about $30,000 per school initially for Hazelton Betty Ford to come in. and now it's down to 8,000 because of the work that they've done. Training.
So we got 10 schools that are going,
We have 10 schools
and we get
participating.
30,000 per school.
No, the first three,
First
we
three.
did because we were pilot schools.
Okay.
But they supplemented, we had Antero that supplemented those schools, so it cost us about 15 because we've been getting grants for that. The other 7 schools are costing us about 12,000 a year.
And we don't know if we'll get those supplemental grants on our behalf this year, so that amount includes the full cost,
Yeah.
in case we're not funded. But Antero did a specific grant to straight to them, that said Harrison County Schools, Harrison County Commission, the money straight to them, to reduce our costs. We're hoping that that continues.
Can you get us the original agreement? Do we have an original agreement?
Well, I don't believe there's an MOU for them originally. We were one of the pilot schools. Some of the counties now are adding MOUs. I can absolutely do that.
Yeah,
Ready,
because
yeah.
I just, I remember us not having to lay out any money. That was kind of the agreement there. It was my impression. We weren't going to have to lay out it. I took it that way.
Well, I think they felt that they would be moving quicker on collecting funds and they first originally told us that we could use federal funding for mental health support. And the state came back, so that's still, we do have funding that we could use, but the state's still not sure. They're not allowing us to use some of that funding that we have set aside for mental health, because that's what it is, mental health support. So that's, I believe, is changing, and I think they're going to allow us to do that. So there's I think it's Title IV funding to use for mental health that could support it. Some counties are doing that to cover it. It's,
The state originally come through with monies, and this was their program to begin with. It wasn't going to cost us anything. How did that
well, I don't
change?
know that it was ever offered as not, they eventually want it to be self-sustaining, and that's where they're getting it. They started out with about 850,000, and now they have about 6 million that they are working with, and they're trying to grow that money. So they have a lot of private investors. They do want to take it statewide, and I'm not sure I can share, but I know that there is I know now that WVU and Marshall is coming together, and that's going to be the prevention program that they're working with. It's the first time 2 large universities have, and I know Game Changers is going to be that. But that's not, anything official. So that is the direction that, and I know State Department of Ed is working now to make it statewide. I mean, some of the events that they've had at the Greenbrier are just fundraisers. I mean, that's what they're doing, trying to fundraise to make it self-sustaining.
So what are they
So
doing
I
with the
did
6
not add
million?
any this year.
What are they doing with the 6 million if we're at around 367?
They're investing that, growing that, and I know they've supported some other counties. They've cut funding, they've cut money off the fires too, because of just the cost. And they're trying the prevention specialists that are coming down are coming from Boston. So that's where the initial expense was Hazleton Betty Ford. They have hired 4 prevention specialists now. They didn't have those until this summer. That Hazleton Betty Ford has trained. So we have our own people here. So that's what's dropped the cost down to 8,000 a school.
Is it possible to get a representative from Game Changers to come and maybe speak with us?
Sure, we can.
And give us,
Give you an idea. And we could even get like the kids from Lincoln to come and talk about what they're doing there, like the peer groups, that's where you can hear from it. They do the first year is really collecting information on the community, and the kids will tell you like, where are they getting the drug supply from? That's the information we're getting. And Robert Matheny actually has used some of that. You take their information in confidence, but they will tell you things. And with a peer person that they can go to, we're getting that kind of information. It's just going to take time to grow that program and to get kids to share what they need to share. But Lincoln's got a great peer team there, like Lincoln Middle, Lincoln High. It's Big L. So we did that feeder area first. Those were those pilot schools that cost us money.
How
So
much have we outlaid so far?
Last year. And that was after we got all of the little discounts and the special rates.
How much?
From
96,000.
96,000.
So the 370 is in case we don't get site overseas.
We have a lot of the businesses
We're
here.
so close to that 100,000.
Seems to be gas companies donating a lot of large chunks of funding. And
I was subbing in the library at a school and saw a session, I was behind the desk, but I was eavesdropping, and I was blown away.
it's just the information that we're
The
collecting.
counselors are just on top of it, and what they elicited from those kids, I was blown away.
We're just now starting to see that at those schools because it's been there.
Building that relationship.
We just have them in the other schools, it's the first year.
8 kids in the program, Lincoln, and the 2 counselors, they're doing it as co-sponsor.
That's the peer team. They do things school-wide, but they select kids to be that peer team. So other kids can go to them. That's the model that works in a school for middle and high school. It has to be coming, they have to have that support from the kids. Has to grow from that. So it's a big project. It's still in its infancy, really, but it's making, it's in 67 schools now in the state. Yeah. in the state.
I just,
And there'll be adding more. I understand,
I
yeah.
thought we were getting the beneficiary. Well, no,
I think initially when the governor changed and they were rolling that out, I thought we would have a little more funding. And so,
See, if we have 67 schools and we only got, 120 schools in the state,
oh no, a lot more than 600 and some. They're gradually working in the counties. Counties are all taking at least one school, but we were just one of the pilot counties that they asked, because they wanted to be more central. And we were invited to be some of the first. But I'll get you more information and I'll set up a presentation.
That brings us down to consent items. Is there a motion to accept consent items? Is there a motion to accept consent items? Is there a motion to accept consent items?
I make a motion we accept consent items. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I read them.
Is there a second?
second,
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion?
Oh, I have one, I'm just on the enrollment here for just a second, thank you, Tom. What does, when it says reason for transfer, other, what does that mean?
They sometimes will write something really crazy that's not appropriate.
Okay,
Do they get denied for that?
no, apparently not.
We can send it back to them and have them write something else. If they don't fill it out properly, we have to tell them why it was not, and that. Usually, it's something that,
Very just,
yes, maybe about a person.
Okay,
like I'm leaving the call.
That we could prove was not true, but, you know, it's not worth it.
okay, I just wondered what other
Sometimes
meant.
things are better.
Okay,
Okay. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business, purchase of maintenance vehicles from Midstate Automotive Group. Midstate Chevrolet in the amount of $55,665 for a box van, and Midstate Ford LLC in the amount of $118,824 for 2 cargo vans. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
were these all out on bid?
Yes.
They were on bid.
Did we get any local companies bid?
No, that was actually the only bid we did. I was surprised we even got them. But,
Those are new, right?
Those are brand new, yes. We really try to do used, and it's very difficult because the work vans, heavy duty or slim pickings. Like, if you're gonna get something that's fairly good. So, and we put our fillers out, we go to different, management at different car lots, and they look for us, but, it's just very competitive. But we're hoping that maybe the market will get a little bit, we can get, a little more reasonable cost to afford in some of those.
All right, thank you. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, purchase of a liftgate from Midstate Chevrolet. This amount of purchase will be $5,330. Total purchase order for the box van, required equipment will be in the amount of $60,995. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Summer paving projects. Is there a motion to accept the summer paving projects in the amount of $384,746 for Big Elm Elementary, Lincoln High School, Leonard Fort, Bridgeport Middle, and Johnson as recommended?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The bid has been awarded to Anderson Excavating, correct? Yes. Item D, approval of McKinley and Associates to provide architectural and civil engineering services for SBA MIP projects. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Score sheets and the bid tabulation are listed in your executive content. If there's no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Affiliation agreement between West Virginia Wesleyan College Athletic Training Program and Bridgeport High School. Is there a motion to accept the affiliation agreement?
We accept the agreement.
It has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Has anything ever been mentioned to not only Wesleyan, but any of the other colleges to help with the other high schools in regard to
Athletic training.
athletic training?
There's really hard to look at colleges that do that, to agree, and I believe Jacob Hill at Bridgeport High School is a professor, adjunct professor. So he's starting to bring some kids down to work with us. It's very difficult. I know there's been multiple discussions with Dr. Nelson and some of the local places here to try to get them moved. This is becoming more difficult. And right now, we are down the athletic trainer at South Harrison High School that we're trying to get someone. You can do a limited athletic trainer, they can be a nurse. So any of our nurses could possibly do that, get a temporary limited trainer.
Would there be
So that's an
additional
option.
compensation for the nurses if they did something like that?
Oh, yeah, they're under the same contract.
You talking about the county nurses?
Yes, and some of them do that. They've been great over the years to step in, fill in temporarily if we need them.
Where are the Dr. Gordons?
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. MOU with Concord University for the placement of social worker practicum student. Is there a motion?
Motion we accept MOU.
Motion has been accepted. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. School bus donation. Is there a motion to accept or to approve school bus donation to Notre Dame High School?
I make motion we approve the school bus donation. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Discussion on possible solar energy project. At this point, this is a discussion on an RFP. This is not an actionable item. We can open this discussion up, to talk about the possibility of submitting an RFP for solar panels. Superintendent, something you want to?
Yeah, we've had two different discussions with, and we don't really, I think we had a presentation by a particular company, but we, at this point, if we're going to consider that, we need to put it out and see what other companies would be available instead of, using one company. There's different options. Most of them are 25-year contracts. They'll do rooftop units where they can do property. If you have property, they can do one building, they can do a whole county. Our concern is that they keep using Wayne County. He gave us that as the example, so you can see how involved it is. Most of the regulatory work, it takes about a year. They said for that to, you have to work with the attorneys and just to get it. So even if you are considering it, it's about a year down the road before they'd ever place equipment. Wayne County has been working with the attorney. They use Bowles and Rice to develop this RFP. So I just wanted to give you an example of how involved it is. Wayne County at this point has not set any equipment yet. So they want to be countywide. I believe that's what they're focusing on, to be countywide. But as of yet, they're getting ready to set the equipment. And what it is they put the equipment out you put the equipment out, it saves you on energy costs, but it doesn't cover all your costs. Like, it's just gonna give you a lower cent per, I don't know what it is, what is it for?
We're basically buying the
Energy from
energy
the
that's
solar
produced from
panels.
those solar panels at a lower rate than you would buy it from the electric company.
And you can do a purchase power agreement. You can buy the equipment and have it, but you're responsible for maintaining it. Or you can let them come in and do the maintenance. You've had discussions with Danny about our rooftops. Now they're talking about doing, what do they call those when they're on the ground? There's a different, just a field, just a solar field
Yeah.
at some of our larger facilities.
You know, that goes with our money.
Yeah, we talked about that, like ours. So I don't know, I just don't know whether you're interested. You could put out an RFP and not be obligated to nothing and see what you get. See what companies are interested.
We should look into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no obligation.
Is there any cost to us if we decided to do it?
Well, there's different ways.
Yeah.
There's, depending upon the amount of energy generated, will determine how much of the savings.
You
we
could
get.
not, if it doesn't generate, like he said, if you have they could not generate any energy and you pay the same amount, but he said you may make up on the other end, just
If
depending.
these ugly looking things on your roof beside your buildings.
So I just don't, I think it's something that,
Myself, I think I'd like to wait and see.
what Wayne County.
Wayne County knows.
Not only Wayne, but a bunch of other counties buy into it. And plus, I look at the fact that we're getting ready for consolidation and all that, and we don't know what other hidden costs are going to come up in getting these buildings ready and taking care of that in the next couple of years. So I myself, I'd like to wait and see let somebody else be the guinea pigs of the solar situation. I was watching the morning news the other day, that I'm retired, so I'm watching in California, and they got these solar fields and all these panels mounted and what have you, and it's generated so much that they can't store it fast, and they have to buy more and more and more storage, places to store the electric, and now they're starting to take some of the panels down because it's more than they can store, and to store it, it's very expensive. So that's, what I know about solar energy.
I'd like to see what the costs were going to be at least. I mean, I know we don't have to go along with it, but we can see what the costs are, that may help. and an idea of determining, I mean, if we're talking a couple $100,000 startup, I mean, that's different. You know, I mean,
Well, I think initially, they'll put the equipment in at no cost, depending, if you sign the contract, it's a 25-year agreement. They will give you the equipment, they will come in, service it, set it up.
I think.
But you would have to depend on what scope you would want, how many buildings, that's the thing. Some counties are doing a few, well, this is what they're telling us, is the counties is signing on to do a couple buildings, which your savings would be less.
I'd like to hear a presentation, just to, even if we don't do anything for a year or two.
Do we have a presentation on
We
that?
did, and I invited them, and because they are a specific company, it's difficult to bring in just one company. Because if you're considering going out to bid, then it looks like you're favoring it. There's, he said probably 3 or 4 solar companies in West Virginia now that would be interested.
But we did have them here, right?
They came in and just did a preliminary thing just on solar energy. But if you get into specifics, but is that what he said he did not feel comfortable coming in,
Yes.
the solar hauler people of other companies.
But that's only the right thing to do, is put an RFP out if we want to investigate it further. To your point, Doug, with 25 years, the agreement here, I don't think, from what I remember last time, there was no commitment that we bound for each year. I think that if I remember him talking, he said you can cancel it, get out of it. The problem then is the equipment that you've already got, whether you lease it or whether you own it.
I don't know,
There's all kinds of-
I wouldn't feel comfortable obligating
At least
the future boards of education
Yeah.
to a 25-year contract. I just don't, that's my, I'm only one vote, so.
You can always contact them and ask what the parameters are, and if it's, I mean, because they have 25, I don't know that they commit everybody on 25.
That's why we have to send out the RFP, because if we
See,
like to see what the options are, what they would come back with. It's not fair to go with one company versus going with all the companies and letting them.
once you
present.
saw what the interest was, and say it was one company, then you could invite them to the top. So there's no obligation with an RFP, and that's just throwing out your net to see if you're interested.
That's my thought, is why cast a wide net, and if it's worth it, we investigate further, if it's not, and then.
And we'll keep watching Wayne County, checking in to see, setting equipment on.
Timeline, our agreement, Wayne County has a timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
And I don't wanna make that decision, I wanna make sure that, we put it out to
we
the
just
vote.
do a general RFP,
Yeah.
or, yeah,
That's gotta be accepted or not, I think. We have to put that on an agenda. for vote.
okay, for action.
Yeah,
Okay,
put that
we'll
on
put
the
it on
agenda.
RFP.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't make this action.
No, that's fine, that was just for discussion, that's all right,
Okay.
that's fine. No old business, policy updates. All right, this one's a little bit interesting here because some of the administrative regulations, we don't know what some of them are. So that's the problem.
That's what I have. You don't do those until you have your policies in place, because they follow. So we're working on those actually.
Okay, so the question then is, if that's going to happen after the policies are approved, is that going to be something the board can approve then, as an administrative regulation?
They're generally not. They
That's-
do
that's
not
the
need
hard
board
part here.
approval.
Right, that's the heartburn, because in my heartburn, anyway. I don't want to see us approving something and then,
Oh, I would
Administrative
absolutely
regulation.
share them with people before. I just don't think they need action, is what.
Well,
it
but they
is.
are now, right? Because when we do the policy, in the policy, like say I'm just saying, because we're doing discipline policy, in the discipline policy are the administrative guidelines that we approve together as a whole, right?
The same for
Policy.
every school.
Right, so the policy and the administrative guidelines are in place now, right? So we approve the policy and the administrative guidelines. at the same time in the past, the one that's in place now, right?
I think administrative
No,
guidelines
in the
just
past-
come,
Yeah, in the past, we've only approved policies individually.
yeah, the administrative guidelines come at any
But
time.
there, we never had administrative guidelines.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
there
we
have been
have.
administrative guidelines in the past, yeah.
They're all over the place, so that was another reason we needed to. Yeah.
I
So
guess
there's
this
an
goes,
actual format, and these are, I'll tell you the ones that we have. Emergency closing of school, extracurricular activities, cancellation due to inclement weather, the grading system, which is the letter grade, international travel, school closure, delay start and early dismissal, semester exams, that's gonna be pretty straightforward. Student driving, testing out, the video use was a administrative guideline, and volunteer coaches. That's what we have.
What about, where was discipline? Is it an administrative guideline? It was a
Before, it
policy.
was it was in that
Part of the
policy.
policy, yeah.
Now we have, the discipline, for example, is now, it is the state safe and supportive schools,
Mhm.
4373, that's what our policy is. So now anytime we want to change the, whatever there are certain things in that policy you have to do, there's a lot of shalls. But if you want any leeway in the matrix on the discipline, has to be progressive, you can do that in a guideline. But we need to follow 4373. That's the policy. The discipline, when, I don't remember, I have that or not. I'll share it with you.
Right.
We're looking at it. The principals have met, and see if I can copy that. It just wasn't quite ready, it was only draft form. They have put together a discipline matrix so that every
But right now, the discipline matrix is in our policy.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what we're operating under currently.
And when it was like that, we approved that together. Right?
Yeah, it was
Policy
part of
and-
the policy.
Yeah, it was part of the policy.
Yeah, here it is. I mean,
So now we don't approve that anymore?
no, we are approving 4373, that policy, so it mirrors state policy. Ours did not. I can tell you, our discipline policy did not mirror the state policy.
No.
The new one. One that
The
came
old,
out
the
July
one we
15th.
had before, the big omnibus policies that we had, there was a lot of things in there that would say, you may do this, when it should have been a shall, like, you're gonna put the child out for this. There was no question. For this offense, you put them out. We had a may and 10 things they could choose from. Yeah. So I don't know how that happened over the years, I don't, but we have to follow 4373. So
Swiss cheese policy.
so what they've done, and thanks to Tammy and Rebecca, this is now, this will be the administrative guideline that was part of the policy before. Kept it in the same format because principals are used to this. They're used to looking at what's the behavior, cheating. This is directly from 4373. Now, our administrative guideline is this. Here's the matrix, things that you can do. This, we've already changed it to, we've set up a matrix, and this will mirror this. That's why I couldn't give you this yet.
Correct, it's still.
They're working on that. So the principals have been in, and they've done a discipline matrix. So the student comes down, put student name on here, say, and this is a level 1. And it tells you exactly, cheating, first time, it's plagiarizing or copying work from others. That's exactly what's in 4373. This definition. First consequence, 0 on assignment. That's what it is. Everybody's gonna get a 0 on the assignment, 1 day lunch detention. Everybody in the county is gonna be doing that. Because now it could be nothing, it could be, so second consequence, 0 on assignment, 3 days lunch detention. So the principals have options, but it's still progressive. And this is level 1. So we have 1 for level 2.
So we don't
Offenses.
get to look at this and approve it then?
It's an administrative guideline. That's-
No, you said they're not required to be board acted on. I can bring them all to you. I don't care. You know, what do you think?
Well, my concern is what principals, and I'm not asking for names, do we have veteran principals who are working on this?
We have them all here.
And, well,
Oh,
that's why, because we're having a group come in next week that's having to have some training because there's some new under the table. Okay, so we need, I think, veterans that really know what they're talking about, have been there, have done that, and experienced it. Not somebody who's been in there a year, 2, 3 years. Somebody that's been there for a period of time, coming up with things, if it's going to be a countywide thing. That's my opinion, and
well,
I think it's right.
you had the elementary in and had comments on,
I only had probably 2, what I would say in the newer, we didn't have assistants, we had regular. Some of my newer have come out with fresh eyes, because we keep doing the same thing over and over, maybe we need to try something else. I mean, for elementary, everything on that page, not written on that guideline, but consensus for all. I don't care what you come in there for, you're calling the parent.
That
You know
should
what
be,
I mean? That should be a given, but that, when you don't write something down, they don't.
no, that should be written down, exactly. That's why these new people should be coming in here to learn what needs to be done while they're in that office.
well, this will be part of the principal training. But we had to get this in place first because it's really about consistency across the county. We are
That's
not
exactly right.
consistent.
Yes.
That's what it needs.
Yeah, so we're,
We tried to go in elementary, and I guided them. There were some times that they say something crazy, I'm gonna be the first one to say, you know, that doesn't work. You've been there, done that. I didn't have discipline problems at Big Elm on a whole, because we ran a tight ship. And you have to do that to get what you want. You have to have your expectation there to get what you want. Sometimes I have to say that in that meeting, but they really were pretty good about coming to consensus on the best thing. We did try to stay elementary in the same progression that high school did in middle school, except it's not as severe. I mean, little kids, we're still teaching that.
yeah,
There were a
they,
few things I had to put a little squiggly sort of through, because we hope that we never ever, we have a parking violation in the I hope. But I'm not.
You might.
Exactly, nowadays,
I think like you said, like the exam policy, grading policy, they're no longer policies anymore. So we no longer have input in those or a review. I'm just asking because the policy before we did.
Right. The policies that we have, we can open those, close them, change them. Typically, we only review them once a year. But the administrative guidelines have to, I mean, in order for, I guess, the policies to be effective, the guidelines have to mirror the policies, right? That's,
yeah, without those, we can't, it's hard to.
but
So which
Some
ones
of
are
these are
ready
very
for?
straightforward, like the emergency closing of school. It's
Right.
done. It's a matter of formatting them into, because they're in all different, some of them are letters, some of them are paragraph. So that's what we're trying to, look at this one. I mean, that's what we have.
So when we approve all the policies, then when do they go into effect? If they don't have the administrative guidelines to go with them?
And they're gonna be able to have those before school starts this year.
Absolutely, because most of the,
That
the
whole-
one is the exam policy, I know that's what everybody's wanting, and I'm, right now, it will be,
Can I say something too?
sure.
When you say exam policy,
Or
it won't
exam
be a policy on exams, it would be an administrative guideline.
Correct.
So that would go into like there is a grading policy in there, which is basically cut and dry. You have to have so many credits in high school to graduate, so many, and then based off that, that's where you can come up with your exam policy or anything else that might add into or an administrative guideline to put in with that.
Yeah, the grading policy is really, like she said, credits, all the stuff that's in code, it's 2510, is all in that policy.
Yeah.
So that way we're making sure that we're doing all of that.
Because
The exam is just what we decide, I mean, it was a disaster this last year,
Right.
but you saw the comments for what we did
The
for
high school
exams.
exam policy's been ineffective since it was put into place.
Yeah.
To be blunt.
So,
The one that is existing.
Yes, it needs change.
well, tying it to attendance gives a lot of
Well, not even that.
heartache. I'm just saying from the state level, they don't agree that that is something that, because it's considered.
But the whole thing about it is if they would use the driver education approved excused absences as a guideline to what is excused and what isn't, as it's stated in the policy, it's stated to utilize the West Virginia driver education, whatever those excused absences are listed, extenuating circumstances, as an excused absence, then the administrator, I mean, I know we excused absences for extenuating circumstances. If they have, if they had COVID, if they had a surgery, that was an extenuating circumstances. That just because they missed 5 days plus, okay, or whatever, I mean, they couldn't help it, their appendix burst.
Right.
Okay, it was absent, so they weren't penalized for that because that was an extenuating circumstance. I think where we got into it last year was that we didn't accept any extenuating circumstances because nobody defined what extenuating circumstances was or were.
Well,
And they just
An
said,
absence
no,
was an
an absence was an absence.
the difference is, and I will tell you, like the chronic illness forms that we have, you maybe would have had 10 a few years ago, now we have probably 100. That's the difference. The physicians are giving chronic illness forms, so to me, if they've got a chronic illness form, how do you say that, so they could miss 40 days with that? So you're gonna excuse them from that, but you have a child that goes to the
But on
doctor.
a chronic illness form, you don't send Jim Kirby after them, do you?
Jim, no,
Okay,
but they
then
go
that's-
through Jim Kirby. They
But I'm
go
just
through
saying,
Jim
then-
Kirby.
But they're not penalized for a chronic illness. If they have,
They're penalizing themselves. Because
Yes.
if they're not in school, they're not gonna have the GPA to get out of exams. So what if I mean, we had parents at Bridgeport that were writing excuses for their kids because they were in the medical field.
Oh.
So, but if you're not in class, chances are you're not gonna have the grades anyway.
So what do you feel we should do with policy handbooks? Should we break apart specific policies? I know you guys want us to approve them all tonight. Do you want to review specific policies that don't have administrative guidelines? Do you want to wait on specific policies that,
I have some concerns on a few. I'm not comfortable approving all of them blanket.
Yeah, there's a lot of meat in that book right there for 2 weeks or so to look at now, really, obviously.
But I don't know if we could discuss them tonight. I'm ready to talk about exams. I've been ready for a few years.
I would say
I'm
pull
legit-
pull out the ones we want to talk about and then
I mean, Rebecca, would you just want to say anything? Because they really are just state policies.
They are, they're very streamlined. If I have gone through because, I've had questions and things from department heads and asking if I would go. And it, almost mirrors verbatim what the state has. So basically, the policies are not really anything that because they are legally vetted through Neola. So to change the verbiage in that actual policy would not warrant, if something would come up, their legal assistance on. Now, when you go to make your administrative guidelines, like for example, the exam keeps coming up. That's going to be an addition, and that's something, once our grading policy, if you would approve that tonight, that's something that we could start working on tomorrow, is that administrative guideline for the exam. Administrative.
well, I don't think we have any problem with if it's actually taken from verbatim and it comes from state code or state policy or anything like that. It's just the one that says the superintendent will, administrative guidelines. It seems like there should be, the administrative guidelines should be with that policy to be approved.
That's where, once the policy's approved, then that's the next step. And that's how, our consultant with Neola has told us, you approve the policies, and then you start on the administrative guidelines.
So we can have say over the policy or
Guidelines, not
the administrative guidelines.
It doesn't sound to me like we need to approve policies, but to get into the guideline aspect of it. Because it's already,
It's already state mandated.
yeah.
So the policies are set in
Well,
stone.
Policies
So my
are
question is specifically, do we have some say over how these policies are interpreted in the classroom?
Through administrative guidelines.
Through the administrative, generally, it comes out of the administrative offices for administrative guidelines, for the day-to-day operation in the county. But I don't have a problem with giving you a view. I don't believe you've done that in the past.
No, that.
Yeah, I mean.
We had to have, because it was in policy.
We've adjusted policies, but we've
And I-
not approved
Yeah,
them.
like, you know,
Because
say,
we approved the grading policy and we.
because it was part of our policy before.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, so we actually did,
We approved
Right.
the policies, not the
It
administrative.
wasn't,
but before it was in the policy. Like the grading policy and the exam policy, it was a policy, and we approved the policy.
but
Okay.
what happens is when you make any change, then you're going back and reapproving all the policies again. So administrative guidelines is so you don't have to change all your policies all the time, like you're not running policies. Administrative guidelines, and most of these, if you read the letters from the superintendents, it'll just say, we had a committee meeting, we met with a group of principals like this one. As promised, the committee has been formed and met for the development of the Harrison County grading policy. And this was from Dr. Manchin, and he designed it and made a guideline. And he sent it out to the principals. It was sent out, this was an.
And it was based on state policy and
And
Harrison
that's the-
County's
Yeah.
administrative guidelines.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's.
That's the old
I
way.
just don't think the policies
So-
need to do that. They need to approve them if they are from the state, but I would certainly think we would need to get involved with the administrative guideline piece of it. That just only makes sense to me.
Like the inclement weather letter. I mean, we send that out every year, that's an administrative guideline. That's telling the schools, this is what we're gonna do. So, I mean, that is something that normally would just come from the superintendent to the schools. I wouldn't necessarily, I would say, hey, we're sending that out.
But it's been the same letter.
Yeah, but I don't.
But it could change, I mean, what if I wanted to make some big change to that?
Or she wanted to say,
Say,
she wanted to say that like the others.
that's right, or something. So I mean, I think there's some things that just need to be set to the principals, that's what, you know. The example.
Some of these policies, I think, are a little bit more important than the snow day letter.
Well, yeah. And some of the comments that we got, like, we got a comment, I had a comment about the birth certificate. We can't require birth certificate. It's in state code. So there's a lot of things like that, and people, they didn't really understand that. Of course, we're not going to deny, I mean, we're going to do everything we can to get that birth certificate. But there were a lot of, most of the comments, we can't change it. You can't change the verbiage that are in those
Right.
policies. Those are actually, it's Dinsmore and Schul and is the main Neola attorneys, probably 6 or 7. And then
And I
kind of,
even went through and, because I believe there's 29 other counties in the state that uses Neola and these templates. They're the exact same templates, the same, so it's not like we're creating our own verbiage or anything like that. It's all very structured, and then based off that, where you want to create those administrative guidelines is where, and you don't have to have an administrative guideline for every policy in there. That's what would be crazy. But for those big ones, Like,
Well, I mean, I
for
think
example,
the policy actually says superintendent will design an administrative
there are-
guideline.
Yes, there are some.
So there are several of
Is there a
those in
specific
there.
policy
There are
that someone
some.
wants to reference? Do you have a specific
Yeah,
policy?
yeah,
Which one?
that's my
That's
cat.
great.
It's okay.
That's good policy.
It'll get
That's
started.
the good stuff.
And then they, yeah, that's what we.
Okay, so, and again, you're not gonna turn into a pumpkin, though. You're okay. All right, so I talk fast. So 2260, which is programs of study for English language learners. And between the two of you, I clearly understand this is something that definitely needs to be your guideline. We are not treating our English language learners the way they should be in the classroom. I'm not saying anything about the ELL services, those are fine. But again, I've subbed in every single high school and middle school for 3 years. They're lumping the non-English speakers together. It's just not right. Part of the problem is the state model was wrong with immersion. We need to get some Spanish language books for these kids, or Ukrainian or whatever. You can do that online too. Because so I was in a classroom with 2 boys from Mexico and 1 from Honduras, and they're supposed to read 2 pages of American history. Oh my goodness. I gave you 1 in Spanish. Oh my goodness, there's no way. So I looked at it, it was the teacher, and I said, don't you have this online? He's like, yeah. I said, copy and paste that thing, put it in Google Translate. It's not perfect, but they can learn what America is. And then we'll worry about their English on another period. So I think we need some really good guidelines on, I think, and I don't think teachers are being lazy, they just don't know. They're flummoxed, they didn't learn a foreign language, they don't know. And then we're using the kids that are fluent in 2 languages to help the newcomers, but then the ones that are fluent are losing out because they're back here helping them, and they're not teachers' aides, they're students. So I really feel strongly we need to do that. And I would be willing, I don't know if I'm allowed to work on that.
But the policy is what it is. I mean, that would be the state policy
So,
on.
right, so but these are guidelines, these are
Yeah.
things we can do in the classroom to help these kids. And now we're getting some kids that can't even speak and write in their first language. So, okay, the other one, I just had a question about multicultural education 2417, and how is that being delivered? So it talks about culture, ethnicity, racial, and religious backgrounds. Like, is there something specific we do for that, or I thought just classroom teachers kind of did it whenever?
They do, and pull it out of whatever. I think a lot of our language classes are cultural,
Okay.
you know. At the elementary level, it's just units, multicultural units.
This one, freedom of speech in non-instructional settings, why did we throw that out?
We don't have to have that.
Okay.
I mean, it was one, we had several comments on that it could be misconstrued
All right, it saves the best for last.
and used against teachers.
I saved the best for last,
Okay.
5421. And
Okay,
this is, I think it's the right policy, the grading. The exam policy is completely ineffective on the high school level. So what is the purpose of having exams and not on the high school level? I'll get to the other 2 levels, but what's the purpose of having exams on the high school level? Why do we think it's important to have exams on the high school level?
different reasons. I think it's to check, comprehension for the whole,
Comprehension.
what they've learned.
Prepare them for college.
Prepare them for testing, yeah.
And if they're in the military, they're taking exams.
Okay.
They're gonna become an electrician, they're taking exams. They're going for their contracts license, they have about 8 different exams.
Right.
But the policy is not having kids take exams. If they have all A's, all B's, or all A's and B's, because it's only 10%, they can come in, sign their name, they can stay at home, sleep in. Doesn't change their grade at all. So it's unfairly punishing the kids that don't have the A's and the B's. The other problem, I loved it, but my kids had 2 B's and 1 A, but they didn't have to take an exam. I'm like, you're an idiot if you don't come take this exam. We're talking scholarships here. You get an A on the exam, you've got 2 A's, 2 B's, you've got an exam, you've got an A. And that is going to affect your GPA. Or even if they had 2 C's and a B, it just helped them. And then if something happened, they didn't do well on the exam, no big deal. But you know what, at least they tried. So I really strongly believe that we need to go, not believe, I know, we need to go back to 25%. That 10% is a joke, because it is not getting your desired result. The kids that are in your upper GPAs are not getting a good experience with an exam, whether they're going to college, trade school, military, they're just not.
Well, what's been discussed, now we can talk about the 10% or 25%, was that all high school students will take exams. They're just all taking the exams.
They're not all taking exams.
Well, no, that's
They
what
don't
I'm.
have to. They don't have to. They have all
No,
these.
no, that's what I'm saying, moving forward, everybody's taking exams at the high school
You
level.
must have
But
watched that,
again,
you must have watched that one meeting.
I don't want to be there.
Oh, it's back, it's his back.
But again, what Jenny is saying, what Jenny is saying though, at 10%, doesn't matter if they take it or not.
That could be.
They can come in, put their name on the exam and the heck with everything else,
One
and
of
it
the
doesn't
best,
matter.
one of the best things we did at South Harrison was the
25%.
students had to take 4 exams a year. They had to take a core and an elective first and a core and elective second. And then that way, everybody's taking an exam.
Why don't we
And then
just
they're exempt from the
exams
other
across the board, 25%? Everybody's taking an exam. I'm okay with that. All
High
take
school
all.
courses,
And then, we're not
No.
doing exams. We're
No.
at the end of the year.
Figure out something so you get those elementary teachers some time to.
Well, they're benchmark, we're doing all kinds of
All right,
things with
I
them.
think
So
that
I'm
if
good with
there's,
that.
if there's some specific verbiage that you'd like to suggest we change, okay, can you?
Well, if you can email me the current guidelines on exams.
We don't have one. That's what I'm saying. We've called, what we have in place
I'm a
is
good writer.
what we have last year. Right now, that's what we're looking at, is all take all, but we didn't do the percentage. If that's what,
Yeah. and if-
That was in
and
last year's
if
policy.
They still
it
have.
was 10%.
Right, yeah.
It was 10%, and it was based on
And we said we were changing.
lots of,
We
yes,
said we were
yes.
And in the current policy that's up for approval, there's nothing in there about.
Without exams, that's what I said, it's
Correct.
a clean slate.
Yes, it's a clean slate. We have policies now that we can make the administrative guidelines like the exam.
And that's a simple one, I don't believe
But to
middle
your
schools
point,
are
that was
doing
in our policy
benchmarking
last
up
year.
until.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was in
Yeah.
our-
That's
that's what I said
Benchmarking,
was in
this
our-
would just be for high school exams.
More high school, and benchmarking is fine for middle schools, I don't think they need to take exams either one. We test those kids to death. And it's not our fault, but, and the other concern I have with the grading policy, and I don't know if this is still in effect, because I retired 3 years ago, but we were told by a former superintendent that 0.5 doesn't round up, and that if they had an 89.9.
It's right.
We're using math. We're using math.
Yeah, and when I do my taxes, and if I put 89.9, it's going down 90, that's real life. Yeah, so well, and I just decided I'm the teacher of record and I know how to use CityNet and I took care of it. But we need to be careful how we're averaging grades. So if kids have 2 low A's and then maybe a low B, and they give them a B. But really, they've earned 2 A's and a B, so it should be an A.
She's a letter thing.
I'm a later,
But that's
B, A.
But that's what I'm saying.
But it is moving
But
forward.
That's,
Okay.
again, that, again,
We were
excuse me,
corrected
hold on,
Yeah.
again, that is an administrative guideline,
Exactly.
okay? So what we have before us tonight are the policies in place.
So
Excuse
what
me.
do we do?
These policies that we have in place are the state-approved policies that are mirrored by the state. So
Yes.
if there is an administrative guideline that we feel needs to be discussed, I would highly recommend the superintendent bring that to us, okay?
Alright, you can
To
email
review.
me and I can share.
We will
with-
work on those,
Yes.
yeah, we can have those, they're not hard, it's just getting
Yes.
the format,
Right, yeah.
probably the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
we do
okay,
that? We'll have
there's 2 other ones that I would like administrative guidelines on. Cell phones,
Cell phone,
I want an administrative guideline, I want everybody to follow it.
Mhm.
When it says no cell phones during the school day, I want no cell phones during the school day, and then I wanna know what the consequences are. It says, I know what it says right here, a 1-day lunch detention is probably not good enough.
There
Some
was a
things
school
need to
board
be
in
a little bit-
California that just outlawed, that just that said they can't have cell phones in school.
Yeah, I couldn't believe
That one-
California, but they did, yeah.
And what they call the dress policy. Okay, that needs specifically laid out and enforced.
Consistently across the board.
Okay, but if you're gonna have kids dressed properly, we better take a look at the professionals that are in the classroom.
Well, hopefully,
Now,
Doug, we're
I
going
mean-
to take care of that next week in your administrative.
'Cause
Training
like I said, I
sessions.
mean, some of them, you know, where they come in dressed, you can't expect the kid to, you know, some kids come dressed much better than their teacher.
Leading by example.
Yeah, and lead by example. And,
Yeah.
you
I don't
know,
have a problem with that either, Doug.
Okay, so then is there a motion to approve the policies as presented?
I so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Okay, the discussion will
Talk
be,
about the
the
ES.
discussion will be in the future. The superintendent will consult with us in the administrative guidelines.
I will bring them to you. How's that?
Sound good?
You don't need to.
Call the questions.
All right.
That's right.
there you go.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. That brings us down to personnel. Is there a motion to approve personnel matters?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify. Any discussion? On personnel?
A position.
Okay.
It's nobody's position. But I don't know, do I need to do something else other than just talk about it here?
Are you going to be discussing names?
No,
No? Okay.
I don't believe so. I guess my question is we're abolishing a service position and creating a professional position. And we have some background or, reasoning behind that decision to do that, and if so, making it a professional position, what is the background of this professional position? I mean, then obviously I have to a degree in what?
Accountant. That's counting. Yeah. I don't know
Why?
how much to address not in,
So if you want to get into specifics, then I would recommend an executive session. If you want to talk specifically about the switch from personnel, from.
Okay, I move pursuant to 69A42 of West Virginia Code that the board go into executive session to discuss personnel matters, which, is that the right one?
Yes, personnel.
If discussed in public, might affect adversely the reputation of any person.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are in executive session.
We're still at personnel matters.
Oh, yes. We did not take a motion for personnel. Is there a motion to accept personnel matters?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion for executive session for legal?
Is it legal or property?
Oh, well, okay, is there any opposed?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. Is there this brings us down to legal disciplinary matters?
I move pursuant to 69A412 of the West Virginia Code that the board go into executive session to discuss any legal matter which, by express provision of federal law or state statute or rule of court is rendered confidential or which is not considered a public record within the meaning of the Freedom of Information Act as set forth in Article 29B-1-1, Chapter 29B of this code.
Is that for the other next meeting?
Yeah,
Would that
this
be
would
property?
this would be,
Wouldn't
yeah,
it be property?
this would be a proper
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, proper motion.
I read it again, sorry, I thought it was went to legal. Okay, I move pursuant to 69A49 of the West Virginia Code that the board go into executive session to consider matters involving or affecting the purchase, sale, or lease of property, advanced construction planning, investment of public funds, or other matters involved commercial competition, which if made public might adversely affect the financial or other interests of Harrison County Board of Education.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Back to executive session.
You could have stopped.
To return from executive session.
If we return to executive session.
Is there a second? There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, this brings us down to legal property matter. Superintendent Stetler, it says review, discuss, and consider. Maybe we would, there's no action that needs to be taken at this point, so we can revisit this on another agenda in the future. All right, this brings us down to board member comments. Mr. Tucker.
Nobody's here, so.
Mr. Hogan.
I'd just like to thank Rebecca Hall for all the work that she's put in on the Harrison County policies and getting everything, up to speed for all of us. I think it's a job well done.
Looking forward to working on some of these guidelines.
I'm with Dr. Santilli.
All right, very good. Any other issues or concerns? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
No discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Adjourned.
That's how we can save some money from the hearing this year.
Yeah, right.